Hello and welcome to episode 129 of the She Must Knit podcast. My name is Erin and thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. So, how have you guys been? It's been about another 3 weeks. I think this kind of schedule is working really well for me. It gives me enough time to kind of work on things, but it's not too long that there's like a huge gap. So I have been working on a whole bunch of projects. Most of them you have seen. I think there's one new one for you today. So I think what I'm going to do is what I've been doing when I kind of close out the episodes is kind of give you guys some goals on what I'm hoping to accomplish by the next episode. So I'm going to let you know what my goals were from the last episode, and we'll see how many of those I reached. Before I do that though, I just remembered I want to do a little shop news little segment there. We're in April. It's the beginning of April right now. The next month so May is going to be a club shipment month, and the next shipment is going to be the sloth. So I'm going to pop a picture up in the corner there of the photo inspiration for the May shipment, and this shipment has a bag option. So I think I've mentioned it before, but if you're not familiar, my club, it's a mystery club, so it's based on an inspiration picture. You don't know exactly what you're getting, but you know the photo kind of gives you an idea of which direction I'm going to go with the colors. But there's a theme. This year's theme is most colorful creatures, so all the months are kind of bright and colorful. And yeah, May is the sloth, and 2 of the shipments out of the 6 for the whole year have an option for bags, and the sloth is one of those. So I do have a really nice sloth fabric that I have picked out, and yeah, there's still spots available for May. So I won't be starting the dyeing for a couple weeks, which is why I wanted to mention it now. But if you like sloths, or if you like the colors of that picture, it might be of something of interest to you. And then I also want to mention something that I'm doing new this year with the club is each shipment that I dye for, I'm trying to dye 1 or 2 extra kind of lots that I will be putting in the shop to be able to be purchased after the fact. So they won't go up right after that particular month shipment goes out, but maybe a month or 2 later it will be available. So shortly after you see this, I should be putting in the lot that I dyed for January's theme, which was the Oriental Kingfisher. That should be in the shop. March's club was the Sunset Moth, so that little lot that I dyed will be going up in maybe another couple weeks. And then so yeah, after each shipment, a couple weeks or a month or so after, I'm hoping to have some little extra bits and pieces. The only thing that I'm not going to do extra are the progress keepers, the handmade clay progress keepers. Those are exclusive to people who buy the club before it ships. But if I have extra fabric, I might make a bag. If I have extra beads, I might do some stitch markers. I'm trying to dye 1 or 2 things of yarn, just a little bit extra in case there's some people who didn't want to quite do the club, but they might see something that they liked. So I think that's everything that I have to say about the club. So now we're going to get back into my projects. So from the last episode, my goals were, and I wrote them down on a little piece of paper so I'd know. So my goals were that I thought I would finish Rebecca's socks, that I would finish the first sock on the pair that I'm knitting for my mom, that I was going to finish Kira's sweater. I was going to, now I just put on my little note back of the trestle tee. I don't know if I intended to finish the back of the trestle tee or just work on the back, because if I finished the back, that's all I had left to do, and therefore the whole project would be done. So I'm not sure what my intention was there. So I was going to work on the back of the trestle tee, and then I was going to cast on, I could see myself casting on the cowl that I talked about in the last episode. So those were my goals. What did I get done? I will tell you straight up that I have finished one project, but I have made a lot of progress on the other ones. So let's start with the most exciting thing, I think, and my finished object. But I finished Kira's sweater. So I had a feeling I would, because I think in the last episode all I had to do was the second sleeve, and based on how long it took me to do this first sleeve, I had a feeling that I was going to finish it. Also, my intention was to give it to her for her birthday, which was this past weekend. It was actually on Monday, but we kind of celebrated over the weekend. So I was pretty sure that I would finish it before this episode. So just as a little reminder, I used the pattern from this book here, Knit for Boys from Kate Oates. And I wanted to do a dinosaur sweater because her birthday this year, her 3rd birthday, I was doing a bit of a dinosaur theme. She's just really into dinosaurs, and Avery never was. So we have a lot of toys and stuff that were left over from Avery that I hung on to all this time. So Akira has a plethora of choices when it comes to different types of toys and stuff like that. We haven't really had to buy her very many toys, but we didn't have any dinosaurs. No dinosaurs could be found in our house because that's just something that Avery was never interested in. So this birthday, I kind of made it a point to get her a few things that were dinosaur themed that she could kind of play with and do things with that would be different than what she had. So I wanted to make her a dinosaur themed sweater. So I had found this pattern here in the book, and I was kind of using this as a loose guideline. I wasn't going to do the little skis and stuff. I just wanted the shape of the T-Rex. I didn't end up doing any of the detailing on the face, like the claws and all that. It was just, it was like more of like a dinosaur silhouette, and I'm quite pleased with how it turned out. So this is it all done, and like I said, the last time I shared it with you, I had finished, I think, this sleeve. So I had finished this sleeve, and I had the second sleeve to go, and I had mentioned how because this whole thing was done with kind of a gradient cake, I knew the second sleeve wasn't going to match the first sleeve. However, I think it worked out perfectly. This whole thing just worked out perfectly, because even though the colors on the second sleeve are different, they're still kind of in the same family. So this is a bit of a more like murkier version. It's like a bit more of a muted turquoise, a muted Kelly green, and then kind of a chartreuse color. And this one is just a brighter turquoise and a brighter green. And then I didn't quite get to the more yellow part of the sleeve, which is fine, because when she's just walking around, running around in the sweater, you really don't notice that there's a big difference in the sleeve. To the eye, it just kind of reads that they're the same, and I really like that about it. The other thing that I had talked about in the last episode was that I was going to try and do a little bit of pressing. This is 100% acrylic. This was a Sirdar color wheel, I think it was called, and this purple here is Peyton's Astra. And acrylic doesn't quite block the same way as wool does, or wool blends. Usually if I'm doing a sweater or a project with a wool, I will spray it down with some water mixed with soak, and I will press it with absorbent sheets, like ShamWow type sheets, and that usually works beautifully. I don't have to soak it. It presses it all out. It just works perfectly. With this, because I did intarsia in the round, plus I did some float carrying because I didn't like intarsia in the round for the dinosaur, and because this was acrylic, it just, especially if you remember the neckline was folding, it just needed a little bit of finessing, but I knew just pressing it with, making it damp and pressing it wasn't quite going to cut it. So I did end up using some heat on it. And all I did for that was I sprayed it down, and then I put a piece of thicker fabric over top of it, and then I used my iron on kind of a medium setting and just kind of ran it over and just kind of pressed the lumps and bumps and the edges that were rolling. I pressed those out, and I think it looks pretty good. It looks like it's pretty finished, at least more so than it did before. So I am very pleased with that. And if you'll remember, the whole reason that I wanted to use that particular cake of yarn, even though it was a DK weight and the pattern called for an Aran weight, and I had to do a bit of fudging with the size that I followed. Ended up following the size 12, which gave me a size 4. The whole reason I wanted to use that yarn is because I also picked her up these fun dinosaur pants, and all of these colors are in this yarn that I had in my stash. Like, how perfect is that? I could not believe it. So yeah, I had to make this work. I had to make this yarn work, and I am so pleased with how it ended up matching. So I ended up giving that to her. She opened that on her birthday, and I was able to take a picture of her wearing it. Now, it's not a very good picture. This child will not sit still for pictures. She does smile and look at the camera now, kind of, depending on her mood. But she does not sit still. She's always moving her arms. She's walking, like, every picture I take of her is blurry. So the best one I got, I'll put just over here, and you can kind of see her modeling her dinosaur sweater with her little pants. So I think I also want to look for a commercially made top to go with the pants too, just for if she wants to wear the pants, but I don't want her wearing the sweater, because let's say she's like, I don't know, jumping in mud puddles, or, you know, playing with acrylic paints or something, and I don't want that on the sweater. I'd like her to be able to wear the pants with something else that matches too. So I might still keep my eye open for something, you know, fuchsia or something else. I don't know. We will see. But I'm happy that's done, and that did end up working towards a square on my bingo card. So I think that's the only project that I actually finished, but I was so close on another one. So let's talk about that one next. Another one of the goals that I had set from the last episode that I was almost sure, I was almost positive that I was going to be able to finish Rebecca's socks, because this is going to be the year of the microstripe socks. And because these were microstripe and they're just so addictive to knit, I thought for sure I would be done. I don't think I had finished the first sock in the last episode, but I was almost done. I was down on the foot. I had only been working on it for a couple days, and I was already almost done the first sock, which is why I thought for sure I would finish. So just as a reminder, here is the first sock, and as I mentioned, I am doing microstripe or helical knitting, where you alternate you do one row each yarn, and you just alternate them, and you just get these fun little stripes. So you can see that's where the beginning of my needles was. But when you use the helical knitting technique, you don't get a jog in the stripes. They are just all nice and even. So I was using this rainbow gradient cake, and then also some Vomi's solid that I've had in my stash for years and years and years. It's about as old as Avery is. And I finished this first sock, so I knew, because I'm working from a gradient cake, that the socks were going to be not matching, but that's part of the fun. I think the friend that I am giving these to is going to really enjoy that. And this is how the first one turned out. So we've got the pink, we've got the orange, and it kind of went down into the yellow up the toe. So the second sock, I'm so close. If I had worked more on these instead of some of the other projects that I put time into, these would have been done, but that just means that I'll be able to share them with you in the next episode. So this is how the second sock is looking. You can see that I carried on from the first sock, and we've got the yellow, and then the yellow is now turning into a green, so we've got a limey green, and now it's going into a darker green, and then you can see from the inside of the cake we are going into kind of an emerald, and I think the toe is going to be kind of this turquoisey green down here. So yeah, I've got the heel done. I'm working down the foot. You can see I've got 3 stitch markers in there, which means I've done 30 rows after the foot, and I am making these in the same size that I make for myself, which means I do 60 rows after I do the turning of the heel. So I have 30 rows left before I can start the toe decreases, and then that will be done. I do not anticipate that taking me much longer to work on. Next, let's talk about the other sock project that I was working on, and this was the pair of socks for my mom. And I think I didn't have the first sock done. I was working on the first sock, and my goal was, I thought for this episode I would have the first sock done. Yeah, I think that was it. I would finish the first sock, which I did. So I have the first one done, and this one I am using the same solid that I'm using for the the microstripe socks, and that's because these originally were going to be microstriped, and then I just didn't like how that looked with the speckled yarn, and so I ripped back and decided to do the speckle on its own. And I think it just shows off the speckles so much more. When I was microstriping these, you just kind of lost that whole look, and I didn't think it really showcased the yarn to its full advantage. And I do think the blue speckles that are in here kind of play off that solid color nicely. But I do have the first sock done. As I mentioned, these are for my mom, and she has the tiniest feet that I knit for. So these are pretty fast. It's usually pretty fast to make her a pair of socks. I use a smaller stitch count, so I think these are 72 versus the ones that I'm making for my friend are 81 that I started with. And I only do 50 rows after I turn the heel. So I've got all my little stitch markers in there, and then as I work on my second sock, I will move those markers over. So it helps me keep track of the rows that I do on the second sock. So first sock is done, and then second sock, I've only made a little bit of progress, but I didn't intend or plan on having the second sock started, so this is a bonus. I've got the cuff done, and I have started into the leg of the sock. So I'm going to keep working on those as well, and we'll see how much I get done of those. We'll talk about my goals towards the end of the episode. So I have 2 more projects to talk about that I was able to work on the past couple weeks, and I think the next one I'm going to share with you is the one that you've seen before, and then afterwards I will show you the new project that I started. So like I mentioned at the beginning, I wasn't sure, I don't remember if my goal was to finish my trestle tee or just work on the back. Honestly, I probably could have finished this if I really put my mind to it, because I am so close. I am so close to finishing this. The last time I shared it with you, here's the front here with the lattice design. The last time I shared it with you, I had finished the front. So I had added a whole bunch to the front. I had done my little garter stitch edging there, and then I was going back to the back of the sweater, and I had to add to the back because the front and back are split along the side. There you can see the front and back are split, which is why I've been working on them separately. After I split, I kind of worked on the front until it was done, and now I'm back at the back. So I had left off at the back where this marker is, and this is what I've been able to add the past couple of weeks. So this is one full ball. I basically just decided to get a full ball in there. They're just little balls. I don't have one right with me here. One moment. Here we go, I got one. So they're just these little 50-gram balls here, and this is the river washed yarn. It is, I think, a cotton and acrylic. I am really liking this. I'll have to see how this sweater ends up washing and blocking and all that, but knitting with it, I really quite like it. So yeah, my goal was just to get one ball in, and then I was going to try it on again and just see where I was. And after I did that, I basically just have like this much left. So I wouldn't even say a full ball. I have maybe half a ball that I need to put in, just like that much, and then the same amount of garter stitch that I have on the front here. I did want the back to be just a little bit longer than the front, and right now it's almost the same as the front. Like when I'm wearing it, it almost hits the same as like the same length that the front does. So half a ball. No more than half a ball is what I have to put into this, and then this will be done too. So I knew I probably was going to be able to, like if I really wanted to, I probably could have sat down and got the knitting part done on this, but I didn't know if I was going to have a chance to do the whole, spray blocking and setting it up and like really pressing out the edges, because as you can see, the neckline here rolls a bit, and the hem at the bottom flips up a little bit, and so I didn't know if I would have time to do all the finessing. So I figured I might as well just wait till I can put more time into it, so that by the time I show you the knitting being done, the whole thing would be done, and I could just mark it down. I could mark it down fully as a finished project. But I was able to put some more work into it, and I am so pleased because it's been just sitting in a project bag for a couple of years, even though I I mean, I didn't have like only a little bit left to do. I did have, a fair bit, but all things considered, it really hasn't taken me that much actual time to get to the point where I am now. So yes, I'm excited to have that done and get another old whip off the needles and done and marked, off on the project page, on the Ravelry project page as finished 100%. Put the little happy face next to it, all that good stuff. I'm excited to be able to do that. And of course, mark it off on my bingo card because this project will work towards that. And then the only other thing that I have to share with you is a new project. And I talked about this in the last episode when I was talking about certain goals on my bingo card. And one of them is to make 2 patterns using PDFs that are already in my Ravelry library. I try and do this every year, and this is actually one of the goals that I usually don't complete. You're always attracted to the new patterns or stuff that's going on in your current life that you want to knit, and I find a lot of the PDF patterns that I have in my Ravelry library are ones that I bought years and years and years and years ago, and so they're not always things that present day Erin wants to make. So I had made a point of going through my entire library on Ravelry and just seeing if I could find 2 patterns, because that's all I have to do to mark off my bingo card. If I could find 2 patterns that still interested me, and I did, and this was one of them, and I talked about it last episode, and I was pretty sure I was going to cast it on because I was kind of excited about how it was going to look. And I actually have basically cast this on twice because I cast it on with I'm not following the pattern. So okay, let's start from the beginning here. The pattern is this one here. It's called Woolcot, and it's basically just a cable cowl. The pattern is written so that there is ribbing along the top and bottom, even though that is not obvious in the pattern photo because it is folded over at the top and bottom. I like how that looks. It kind of looks like it's a double knit or double layer cowl. I like how that looks, so I was going to try and change it so that it would be more of a double layer cowl. So when I first cast it on, I decided I was going to do it so that I was using 2 colors. If you'll remember, I was using a cream and then a speckle. And the first time I cast it on, I was going to do it so that the cream was the only thing visible when you looked at it from the front, and the speckle was only going to be on the interior of the cowl. And I didn't end up liking how that looked because it wasn't going to use, I only had 2 skeins of the cream, and it was the Knit Picks Twill, and they weren't like, usually worsted weight yarn, 100 gram worsted weight yarn is about 220 yards or so. This was only 100 and maybe 70 or 80 yards. So by the time I cast it on and did the fold and knit as much as I could of the cable pattern to where I was almost running out of the white or the cream yarn, the cowl was only going to be maybe like this wide, and I wanted it to be a little bit wider. So I decided to rip it all out, start over again, and this time I was going to have the speckle there was going to be a row of speckle. So just because you're probably like, I don't know what you're talking about, like, show us what you're doing, because I have no idea. I can't show you what I did before, but I can explain it with what I've done so far. So I have done something similar to this when I've made double knit cowls for Avery. You cast on with a provisional crochet cast on, or at least this is what I do. So I cast on the number of stitches that were listed in the pattern, and I use provisional cast on with the crochet hook. And then you use your contrast color. So whatever color is going to be on the inside of the cowl, you change to that and you knit a couple of rows. Then you do a purl row, because that is going to it's going to make for a nice folded edge once it folds over. You switch to your main color, and then you do whatever you're going to do with your main color. And in this case, I was following the cable pattern. I'm holding the worsted weight yarn double, and this is all, I used every little scrap of this cream yarn. So after I switched to the cream, I followed the cable pattern basically until I ran out. It was a 12 row repeat, and I was able to do, I think, 2 repeats, And then I still had enough left over that I thought I was going to be able to do one more repeat, which I did. And so this is a lot taller than when I had cast it on the other way, and it was just going to be too short. It was going to be only about this big, and I wanted it to be a wider cowl. I didn't need it to be a huge cowl, but I kind of wanted it to be, you know, at least enough to kind of come up to my mouth or to my nose if I was wearing it. I just like how this looks so much better in terms of how big this main part is. So after I used up all the cream yarn, then I think I knit a row of the contrast, I did the purl row again, and now I am knitting with the contrast again. And so this is going to fold over, and this is going to fold over, and basically what I'm doing now is I'm just going to knit in stockinette with this speckle yarn that I have until it's long enough to meet up with this on the inside, and then I'm going to kind of Kitchener or graft or whatever the two ends together, and it will be this cream cowl with a stockinette lining of the speckle. And all you'll have when I'm wearing it, there will just be this little row at the top and bottom that kind of shows this. But the reason I wanted to do this is because then I could also flip it on the inside, like inside out, and I would just have a plain stockinette cowl in this really pretty speckle. And this is something else that I've had in my stash for years and years and years and years. And I just really think the colors are quite pretty. I love how it's knitting up, even though there isn't really a whole lot to look at. I really love how it is knitting up so far. And I think it's going to look really pretty as a stockinette fabric on the inside of the cowl. So I did end up putting quite a bit of time into that project. I basically knit the amount that I've knit so far twice after I got to the stockinette part on the first one, decided I didn't like it, ripped it all out, and basically did it again. And I think if I hadn't have had to have done that, I think Rebecca's socks would have been done. It's quite possible I would have finished the Chelsea tee. I don't know. But I did, there was several days of work that I was putting into this cowl, because, you know, if you love cables, and I do love a good cable, once you get going into that cable pattern, it kind of gets addictive and you just want to keep doing it. I will say with this one, usually with cable patterns, I've learned to cable without a cable needle, and that was, when I learned to do that, that was absolutely liberating in terms of just making knitting cables so much more streamlined and so much more enjoyable, because you weren't, you know, fussing around with the cable needle. It was very difficult to do that with these, because it was over like 10 stitches or so, and this is worsted held double, so they were quite big chunky stitches. And also, because they were with yarn held double, usually when you cable without a cable needle, you're pinching some stitches, or you've got stitches kind of just hanging there as you manipulate them. And because it was doubled yarn, there was just extra loops everywhere, and I was like, I am going to lose something somewhere, and it's just going to end up being a mess. So I did have to end up using I just used a DPN to kind of hold those stitches, make sure they weren't going to go anywhere. It did make the process a little bit slower. If it had been smaller yarn over less stitches, I think it would have been faster. But I did enjoy the cabled part. It was really fun to see that come together. I like where this project is going now. I'm excited to see how it ends up looking once the double knit or the interior lining part is done. And I don't know if I'm going to have much of a chance to enjoy it. We are right in the part of spring where some days are still really cold, like today. Today we went out, and even though the days are starting to look beautiful, the sun is out, the birds are chirping, there's robins everywhere, the chipmunks are back. So you look out the window and you're like, oh, what a beautiful day. And you step outside and you're like, holy tornadoes, it's freezing. And then it just kind of takes the whole joy out of going outside. But we still go outside because Kira loves going outside. Today we went, we had a big, huge rain yesterday, like huge rain, like all day. It was off and on, it would stop and then it would just absolutely pour. It would stop and then it would absolutely pour. It actually started at 6 in the morning, and Kira is a really heavy sleeper, but the thunder booming was so loud that it woke her up at 6 in the morning, which was just lovely. But yeah, it was just a huge rainy day, and there was lots of puddles. So we went out searching for puddles today, and it was cold. It was cold, even though it looked like a beautiful, warm, sunny day. It was not. However, next week I was looking at the forecast, and there's a whole bunch of days that are going to be above 20 degrees. So that's just where we are in the weather right now. We're going to have like freezing days, we're going to have warm days, and then back to freezing days, probably until sometime in May when it levels out. So I don't know. I might still get a chance to wear this cowl. I was definitely wearing my exploration station shawl that I wear as kind of a scarf. I was wearing that today, and this cowl would have been nice. It would have been nice to have had this done because there was a bit of a wind today. So we'll see. If I can finish this, fairly soon, I might still be able to enjoy it. But if not, it's not going to go bad. I can put it in my drawers with all my other woolly accessories, and I can pull it out next fall. But I think that is now all the stuff that I've been working on. I don't think I have anything else to share with you. I'm not going to do a big kind of like sit down and let's update my bingo card for this episode, because really I only made one addition to it. So I think I'm just going to take a picture of that and pop it up on the screen now so you can see what my card looks like. I was able to mark off the spot of make a pattern from a book or magazine. So that was Kira's sweater that I finished. I have added one more square to my card. However, next episode, I have a feeling we're going to be able to do a big update, because a lot of the projects that I showed you today are at the point where I think I'm going to be finished them for the next episode. So let's talk briefly about my goals, and then I have a little surprise for you at the end. So my goals for next episode. Okay. I think I'm going to have Rebecca's socks done for sure. I think there's a good chance that I will finish my mom's socks. The trussel tee should be done for sure. I think I can even finish the cowl. I'm only doing the stockinette, but it will either almost be done or it will be done. So that's most of the projects that I'm going to be working on. And if I finish all those projects, I know I'm going to want to cast on something else. So I think I will have at least one pair of socks cast on. Because once I finish Rebecca's socks, I'm going to want to cast on another pair. Probably another gift pair. If I think about my list of gift knits, the next in the line would be maybe one of my brothers, maybe Evan's socks I'll cast on. So I think I'll definitely have one pair of socks cast on. If I'm able to finish my mom's socks too, I might even have another pair of new socks cast on. And I can almost guarantee you one of them will be Micro striped, because that is just going to be the thing. And then, is there anything else that I'll cast on? I don't know. I'm not gonna speculate at this point. That will just be a surprise. So I think definitely at least one or two new socks I will have cast on. But most of the other projects that I shared with you today are going to be finished. That's going to be my goal. And then let's talk about the little surprise. So as I mentioned earlier, it was Kira's birthday this past week. It was on Monday, but like I said, we celebrated kind of over the weekend. And I decided to make a cake for her this year. I am not a baker. I am not a cake making enthusiast. It is not something that really appeals to me. But because we were kind of doing a dinosaur theme for her this year, I thought it would be fun to attempt into making her a dinosaur themed cake. So this past Friday, because I wanted to have it done for Saturday, Avery and I got to put our little noggins together, and we worked on that. And I did take some video and I did take some pictures, and so I'm going to try and put that all together, and so that you can enjoy seeing how that came together. But other than that, I think that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. We are coming into Easter weekend this weekend. We will be seeing lots of family. So if you celebrate, I hope you have a wonderful Easter. I don't know if this episode will go up before. Probably not. Let's be honest. Tomorrow we're going to go see my mom, and then we're going to be seeing Dennis's mom on the weekend. We're going to be doing our own Easter stuff. I don't know if I'm going to have time to edit this, so it's probably going to go up after Easter. So if you celebrate, I hope you had a wonderful Easter. Otherwise, I hope you've been able to get lots of crafting done. Let me know what kind of projects you've been working on that have been bringing you joy, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Okay, so what's today?
The day before Kira's party.
Yeah, it's March 31st, so Kira's birthday is in like 3 days. And tomorrow is Saturday, so it's the weekend, and we have
a little party.
Well, it's not really a party, but we have
two people are coming.
We have my mom and my aunt are popping up to just see Kira for her birthday. And I know you guys loved the process, watching me make the toilet cake so much that I've decided that I would share this little adventure with you as well. So my plan is to make Kira a birthday cake, and this is all the stuff that I've gathered for it, and I'm not going to do a video for the whole thing. I think we're just going to do a little video in the beginning. I'm going to explain my vision for the cake, and then I'm going to take a bunch of pictures. Maybe I'll pull it together with some nice little music for you to see, but I really want to just focus on the design, and I want to have fun with Avery, so I'm not going to vlog the whole thing. And then once it's all done, hopefully it will be, fingers crossed, it will look like what I'm picturing it to look like, and we'll come back on and we'll do a little video at the end. So this is what we've got so far. Earlier this afternoon I was able to bake the 2 cakes, and please, I'm not gonna like try and kid you here, I did not make these from scratch. This is a boxed rainbow chip cake, and this was a cookie mix, but I've made a giant cookie because this is going to be part of the whole scene that I have in my mind. I wanted some sort of base, and I didn't want to make another cake piece. So we have a giant cookie, we have the 2 cake rounds, and then we have some bits and bobs that I bought for the cake. We've got some dinosaur toys, and if you haven't figured out from that little clue there, my idea is to do a dinosaur themed cake. We picked up some little like cookie bits and things that I kind of have in mind to decorate around the cake. I've got icing, and I do have another one in the cupboard in case we need more. We've got a ice cream cone because I want to try and turn that into a little volcano, and then we have some food coloring so that I can dye the icing all the different colors that I need. Okay, so that's all the pieces, and I'll quickly explain kind of what I'm envisioning. I'm planning on cutting one of these in half and then stacking them on that one so that there's a higher level at the back and it kind of goes shorter in the front. And that's going to be positioned right in front of this. So this is going to be kind of some terrain in front of the cake part. So on top of that, there's going to be the volcano. I'm picturing a waterfall. I'm picturing trees. I think I specifically picked this one out because there were some little trees in there, and I really want to have trees on it. So yeah, picture a high-low cake with volcano and trees and dinosaurs and water and whatever else we can figure out.
You can do that?
No.
Because you're not experienced in baking.
I am not, but I have a creative mind, and we are good problem solvers, right? So I think between the two of us, we can figure this out. So that is all for now, and we are going to get started. And yeah, so I hope you enjoy the little picture thing that's going to come after this, and we'll check back in with you in a little bit. Okay, so I think we have reached a point where we are satisfied with the results. It's about 9:30, so it took a little longer than when we wanted to. But yeah, she's eating some leftover cake pieces.
Very good.
And this is what we ended up with. So I'm pretty happy. I think it pretty much came together with what I had in mind. We had to do some improvising and some spots, but I think overall, I think Kira's gonna think it's pretty fun.
This was my idea.
Yeah.
And then we tried to make them fight, but then
yeah, these two dinosaurs here were supposed to be fighting, and then this guy fell over in the lava, and it's like, well, you're gonna stay there. So yeah, he succumbed to the lava attack. But yeah, no, Avery's idea was to put the candle in the volcano, and then when it's light, it's like fire, so that's pretty fun.
No, it's like lava. It's like lava spewing.
Yeah, so yeah, the fire will be at the top of the volcano. We've got the little kit, the little dinosaur kit came with some eggs, so we made a little nest. We've got this guy over here stealing one.
And it has a crack in it, so it's like he dropped it.
Yeah, and then we've got some trees up at the top there. We have a little Brachiosaurus eating the leaves. I think all the colors came out pretty well. And yeah, I think she'll think it's a pretty fun little cake. So I think we're good, right?
Yeah, I helped with a few parts like that. That was my idea too. I think. And then this was my mom's idea, like making him drink. I think it's called a triceratops. I don't know a lot of dinosaurs.
He's missing some horns, or I don't know. He's in the triceratops.
He's a deformed triceratops.
Yeah, he's in the triceratops family. Anyway, so yeah, we'll see what she thinks of this. But
if it doesn't collapse, like
I don't think it's gonna collapse because
dinosaurs.
I think they're pretty sturdy. I think the icing is setting, and I think they're pretty.
With some cake.
Yeah, the cookie with the cake. So I'm gonna let this just sit here for a little bit until it's time for us to go to bed, and then I'm gonna put a box over it so that Kira won't see it when we come downstairs. But maybe I can get a little video tomorrow of her when she sees it or whatever.
Her reaction.
Yeah, her reaction. So we'll see. We'll see how that works. I have family coming over tomorrow, and sometimes it's hard to do videos when you have lots of people. So, but yeah, that was fun. Was that fun? I think it turned out pretty well. All right, so we'll see you later. Good night.
Bye.
And we have to sing. We're going to sing.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday,
dear Kira. Happy birthday to you. All right, now you have to blow up the
Are you
candle.
one? Are you
Really
two?
hard.
Are you three?
Okay. Now Mommy's going to cut the cake and we're going to eat it.